Already done page 43, but I just wanted we have done Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. We have already done page 43, if you can remember. I just wanted you to see the table. In the table, I've mentioned about strict approach, balanced approach, and eclectic approach, because we were looking at all these areas, if you can remember. And I also mentioned the reasons why, the 5 reasons why a mufti might adhere to a strict approach. Yes? And these are the 5 reasons. Bias towards a juristic group of scholars, that could be the reason why he is leaning towards a strict approach. Or individual scholars of repute. Maybe some individual scholars he sees them maybe like, for example, a teacher who he reveres and who he respects highly, and he might just blindly take his opinion, which might be very strict and which might not be compatible to the conditions here in the UK. I gave an example of driving, if you can remember. Like, for example, if somebody calls his teacher some in a different country where driving is, like Saudi Arabia before, the woman weren't allowed to drive. He is here and he calls his scholar and says that, I want your opinion. What should I give the fatwa about? Whereas the muftis in the UK, they've already given the fatwa that a woman can drive. And he ends up giving fatwa that they shouldn't be driving because he has been biased towards the individual scholars of his respect. Also, the other reason why he would be falling into the pitfall of becoming strict is because of uncompromising adherence to the superficial and literal meanings of the sacred text. The sacred texts of the Quran and Sunnah, they have underlying objectives behind it, and there are legal reasons, yes, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions. But he does not pay attention to the legal reasons, and he just restricts the text, yes. Therefore, he will be strict. I gave an example. Say, for example, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that no one should pass a judgment, be a judge between 2 people in the state of anger. Yes, so the Zahiris, they're very literalist in this respect, and their literalism drives to the fact that they restrict these hadiths of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam strictly to mean just anger. But in reality, the meaning is a bit more wider than that, because what we have to look is that why the Prophet ﷺ has said that you should not pass judgment whilst you're angry, because what anger does, it blocks your rational judgment. It does not allow you to be level-minded and balance-headed at that moment in time. And because of that reason, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned. So, which are the states where a person, loses that rational balance? In the state of hunger, real hunger, yes, where he cannot bear anymore. The judge, he shouldn't be passing. So what we are doing, we are extending the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ to other areas. The literalists, the Zahiris, they will not extend the hadith. Similarly, take another example where we find a person who is in the state of thirst. He's really thirsty, right? He's really, really thirsty. Obviously, he will not be able to pass a sound judgment because his mind is not at that moment so level-headed. Yes, he's not level-headed at that moment in time. Therefore, his rational judgment will be suffocated because of the fact that he is really thirsty. Similarly, he's bursting to go to toilet, say for example, and because judgment is something that he has to think. Yes, he has to calculate, he has to look, and if he's in the state that he has to run towards the toilet, he cannot pass a judgment in that state. Can he? No. So we find the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is not restricted to only anger, as the Zahiris, the literalists, have done so. Is that clear? Yes. So that's one reason why a mufti might adhere to a strict approach. The other reason is excessive obsession with sticking to the principle of Sadd al-Zarai, blocking the means. So he's all the time trying to block the means. Yes. Like for example, if there are some harms, I give an example. Say for example, if somebody is very obsessive, yes, in blocking the means towards haram. I give an example. Say for example, they said, Sheikh, we want to build a park near the mosque. Yes, do you allow us to build a park near the mosque? The brothers, they end up saying that. Yes, we have some grounds, we can have a public park where families will go and have good time. Then he says, well, I've been reading too much about people taking drugs in the parks, yeah? So, if we allow the park to be built, so we'll have druggists and so on here, right? So he says, I don't allow it. So he gives a fatwa. I'm giving an example that a public... Now, what it is, this harm is a perceived harm. It's not that it's a realized harm. Yes, because and also it is a harm that can be mitigated by having security, maybe, or having patrols or things like this. True or false? Yeah, and benefits quite a lot. It will benefit the community and so on. So a scholar who is so obsessive in acting upon the principle of Sadd al-Zarai, he will just, wherever he finds, he will just keep on blocking the means, yes? It is like, becoming a haram police in everywhere. So that's not a good thing. So that could be one reason that he will be, because of obsession with the principle of Sadd al-Zarai. So it is important for him to stick to the balanced approach. Then we've got number 4, intensity in personal piety, which drives a mufti to observe ifrat, excessiveness in ihtiyat, precaution. One thing we have to remember is that a mufti has to have taqwa, definitely. It is important for him to have taqwa. And also he has to have knowledge, yes? The story of a person who killed 99 people, yes? He did not go to a mufti, he went to a pious person, isn't it? Who had piety but did not have the knowledge. He didn't have the knowledge of ifta. So he said, no, you are not going to be forgiven. Yes? A person had committed 99 murders. He said, there's this pious man is saying that I'm not going to be forgiven. Oh, I'm stuck further. So he ends up killing the pious person as well. So he had already committed 99 murders, the man. And then this was what? A century, isn't it? 100.
Yep.
Because that person who was pious, he didn't have knowledge. So he gave his fatwa on the intensity of his piety without having a strong knowledge. Yes. So sometimes intensity of personal piety sometimes can affect. Yes. So if a mufti is conscious about that, yes, and he says that no, it has to be according to the dalil. It has to be what? My fatwa has to be according to the proofs rather than my own personal taqwa. Because sometimes if he starts acting on his personal taqwa, which is very high indeed, the bar of his taqwa is high. The standard, there's what we call, there's a standard taqwa. Yes? امتثال أوامر الله واجتناب نواهي. And in terms of taqwa, people are of different degrees, but he has a lot of piety. Yes? So if he starts using his piety over the proofs, yes, that creates an imbalance in iftar, and that is a strictness. Then the number 5 is mizaj driven, temperament driven harshness. A person sometimes happens to be very harsh. He is harsh because of the fact that it is his own temperament. He's really harsh. So he's in that state of harsh on anger, yes? And then all of a sudden somebody comes to him and says, well, is this allowed or not? He said, no, it's not allowed. You're giving me a hard time here. it is allowed. So what he has done, he's used his own temperament to pass a judgment, which is not a good thing. So one has to be conscious about that as well. So that could be also a reason why he could be strict in his approach. Now, on the other side, we have eclectic approach. Eclectic approach means a very liberal approach, yes? A very over-facilitating approach. The first one, it could be unregulated usage of maslaha, human interest. Sometimes what it is just like wherever they find, a person keeps on using human interest up to an extent that a legal text is there saying it's prohibited. But he says, no, it is allowed. Yes, like for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited many things, yes? But he says, no, because of you want to make profit and you're allowed to do that. So what he's doing is taking human interest into consideration, and is overriding the dalil, the textual evidence, yes, and nusus. Textual evidences, he's overriding them by using maslaha. So that is an eclectic approach, right? And it's unbalanced. Number 2, can you see? Eclectic approach, transgressing the uses of concessions and talfiq. Concessions, he keeps on using so much concessions, he shouldn't be doing that. And then juristic evasion of the ahkam, injunctions of Islamic law. And I did mention that, in terms of juristic evasions and artifices, sometimes it is wajib to use it, sometimes, it is allowed. Anything that is there to realize the haqq is permissible. Anything that it's not there to realize the haqq, it's not allowed. You were here last week, weren't you? Faizi? Yeah, and I gave the table, can you remember? And I made a diagram. There's a big diagram. You can check in page 42 of last week or before that. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wajib, mustahab.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. Can you remember?
Yeah.
Is that page what? 40?
42.
42. And there is also, I think, there is also a tree in page 41. I think. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Can you see? Yes? So, that diagram in which you have evasions, there are 2 types of evasion, yeah? Just like tax evasion, some of them might be really, really prohibited and other loopholes might be allowed, yes?
Yes.
Did you understand? Now, today we are moving to page 44. And the sisters who have not received and brothers who have not received, inshallah, I will be giving them. And I've already sent also a PDF copy on the, Now, guidelines to facilitation in Fatwā. قواعد التيسير في الإفتاء. Now, if a person does not have guidelines regarding facilitation, obviously, it becomes an anarchy. Is that true or false? Yes, it becomes an anarchy. In other words, it just uses facilitation left, right, and center. So there are clear guidelines that ensure correct application of facilitation in the issuance of fatwas. The laws of Islam have been made moderate and easy. One thing we have to remember, all the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are moderate and easy. True or false? So for example, if you cannot stand up and read salat, read sitting down. Yeah? If you're ill and you cannot fast, you can fast later on. And if you're so ill that you cannot fast at all, you can give fidya and that's it, and you're out of it, of the responsibility. So they're moderate and easy. Hence, one taking the post of issuing fatwa, meaning a mufti, or doing ijtihad, a mujtahid, should learn to strike a balance between the strict and eclectic approaches when dealing with new situations, because he wants to use a balanced approach and he wants to use facilitation as well, but he should know that he should be going towards the strictness on one side and he shouldn't be going over facilitation on the other side. Yes. Imam Shatibi says the mufti who has mastered the art of iftā is one who possesses the ability to keep the people on the path of moderation, which is befitting the general public. Such a mufti will never lead people to the path of extremism or laxity. So Imam Shatibi says that, a mufti is one who has mastered how to strike a balance. Yes, how to be moderate and not on one side lean towards laxity or the other side lean to strictness. So that is a mufti who has really mastered the art of moderation. Then he goes on to support this view by stating that this is because the straight path which Sharia brought entails the pursuit of moderation and avoidance of both over strictness and laxity. He said that, look, the straight path, obviously, it is a path which is between two extremes. One is known as ifrat, yes, ifrat, over excessiveness, and tafrit, laxity, yes. So between these two extremes, we have the straight path, which is moderate. Then he further states, based on that, it can be said that a mufti that fails. Now he's saying that based on the fact that Allah has given us a Sharia, which is what? Which is the straight path, which equals to a moderate path, which equals to not being too lax, not having too much laxity, and also not being too strict. Yes. So he says, based on that, it can be said that a mufti that fails to grant moderate rulings to those who seek fatwa from him, then he has failed to fulfill the lawgiver's objective in giving us Sharia. Because the objective of lawgiver is for the humanity to remain on the straight path, which is moderate path. Yes. So the mufti has failed to do that if he's not giving his fatwa based on moderation. Whatever entails a deviation from the moderate path is seen blameworthy by the scholars. He's saying that anything that is seen as what? As deviation from that straight path, in reality that is deviation. Since extremism is an antonym of justice and fairness, therefore it cannot be in the best interest of the people. He's saying that if you're taking that extreme too liberal extreme of laxity, or too conservative extreme of strictness, then what you are really doing is that you are not being just, neither you're being fair, and that is not in the best interest of people. Both extremism and laxity, they are detrimental. They are what? Detrimental. For if a person is placed on the path of hardship and difficulty, then he is alienated from religion. Yes, if you start putting strictness all the time, too much strictness of person, so psychologically, look, he's mentioned here a psychological setup of human beings. If you put so many laws that are very strict on people, so people then what they become? They become alienated from religion, which in turn will allow him to abandon the eternal success of the hereafter. Because of that, he is alienated from the religion. What will happen? He will say, oh, who cares? And na'udhu billah, he will live doing good deeds, which in other way, it will make him lose out in the hereafter. Such cases have been witnessed. He says that this thing has happened, where they've been too, strict. People have, become alienated with, against the religion. And in fact, they sometimes they even start speaking. This is what happens. People, you will see where there's too over strictness. All of a sudden, you will see these people who are too strict. Yeah. Even just now, some places, Middle East, wherever. I don't want to give examples. I don't want. One side they're too extreme, which Allah and His messengers, they have not, yes, they have not, it's not their objective in legislation. What happens then? All of a sudden when things go really wrong, they go to the other extreme. Other extreme, completely liberal extreme, where they even forsake their religion. Yeah, too liberalized that, completely they, give a kick to the religion. So from one extreme they end up jumping to the other extreme. Whereas deen is moderate. They will be enjoying their deen, And in fact, when you are in the path of moderation, you're more thankful to Allah. You say, how beautiful my deen is. Yes? Say, for example, you've got the habit to fast Mondays and Thursdays. And all of a sudden you're not feeling well. Yes? But your heart is saying, no, I have to fast. Yes? You are strict. But now, in that, then you say, no, Allah is merciful. Yes? Okay, if I let it go this Monday because I'm not feeling well, inshallah, I can keep it next time and Allah will reward me. Imagine, if you are ill and you had the habit to fast on Mondays and Thursdays, you get the reward for it. That's the mercy of Allah. Now what will happen is that you didn't fast that Monday, true? Yes? And you've got the habit but you weren't feeling well. Imagine the relief that you get for not fasting because of the fact that you know that Allah is merciful and Allah will reward you because you're on the path of moderation. Yes? Will reward you for that. In fact, that day when you're eating, you will thank Allah. You'll say, Alhamdulillah, you've given me food today. If I had fasted, I would be in a bigger problem. Yes? But if somebody is too strict, yeah? He said, no, today I will fast. Yes? And then he's having hardship because he's not feeling well. He's not feeling well completely and he's having a hard time. To an extent that he's not being able to bear and he's like half dead. He cannot even read his salah. Yes? What will happen next time? What he will say is, goodbye fasting. He will not fast. Yeah? There are youngsters, they've got the habit to take things to extreme and then when it fizzles out, yeah? Like, a bottle of Coke, yeah? They're too passionate, right? And it's like, you've been shaking it up, right? And all the gas. When all the gas goes out, yeah? There's no more gas in it. Keep things moderately and you will enjoy it. Yeah? Yeah, so he says that such cases have been witnessed. On the other hand, if he is placed on the road of laxity and over-facilitation, then he is likely should be to follow his whims and desire, which is against the aims of Sharia. It's a harmful stance. There are many proofs concerning this. Here, on the other side, if he's too facilitating, about fasting, I'm just giving example, but to an extent it might tie with this or not, right? But I'm just giving an example. In terms of laxity, if a person is too, he is of that type that he is too over facilitating himself and he puts himself into such a situation that he thinks he's completely liberated, what he is going to do, yes? In reality, he doesn't want to follow the deen. He just wants to follow his whims and desires. And he says, Allah is Ghafoor Rahim. Yes? In other words, I've got green light to do whatever I want. Yes? So, most likely he'll be following his whims and desires. He's not following the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Striking a balance is achieved when it is fully envisaged that it is fully envisaged what a balanced and moderate approach demands. If a Muslim possesses correct qualities which ensure his uprightness and steadfastness on the straight path, then he is able to issue rulings that reflect the intents of the lawgiver. One thing, remember, if a mufti is giving moderate fatwas, he is in reality fulfilling the intents and the objectives of the lawgiver. Okay. For example, if a mufti possesses knowledge, he will avoid issuing fatwas on ignorance. If he has taqwa, then he will protect. That will protect him issuing the rulings out of impulse. while his moderate attitude will ensure that he does not lean towards to extremism, nor it should be to laxity. Okay, this should remain his predominant approach and most correct position for employing independent reasoning, and it is the position advocated by most scholars. So if he has these qualities inside himself, will ensure moderation. Yes, if he's got taqwa, yes. Obviously, I did mention that if you've got too much taqwa, sometimes it can have an impact. But if you have the taqwa that is necessitated, yes, then a person will not give fatwa on his impulses. And the other thing is that if he has got knowledge, yes, he will not give fatwa over due to the ignorance, yes. So he will remain on the path of moderation when he has the qualities with him. In order to realize the lawgiver's purpose of holding human beings accountable for the pursuit of what is best for them in this world and the next, there is an urgent need to regulate how the principles of facilitation in the issuance of fatwa. So obviously facilitation can be used properly or misused. Yes, used properly or abused. Yes. So if somebody is an amateur mufti, amateur I'm saying, right? Not a professional, amateur mufti, he could use or abuse the the remit of facilitation. He can over facilitate and can just use facilitation left, right and center wherever he sees. No. If he has some guidelines, he will know where to draw the lines, isn't it? If you have the guidelines. If you do not have the guidelines, it's like you just keep on doing the way you want. The following are some principles that serve as guidelines which Muslim scholars have proposed to regulate the realm of facilitation in the issues of fatwa. The first one is ensure that the fatwa is based on knowledge and fairness. Ensure that fatwa is based on knowledge and fairness, because obviously if a person says, no, it's just, we have to facilitate, yes? Okay, you have to facilitate. What knowledge have you based that facilitation on? Huh? He says, no, we have to facilitate. You end up, okay, you have to facilitate, but on what grounds are you facilitating? What is the knowledge behind it? What is the reason behind it? And also it should be on a fair ground, yes, on a leveled ground, and not on unfairness. Number two, ensure that a thorough and correct investigation has been undertaken concerning the issue before issuing a fatwa on taysir. Have an investigation about it before you do anything. Number three, cite all evidences and rules when issuing a fatwa in favor of weakly attested lenient view. Sometimes what happens is that there is a need to give fatwa on a lenient view, but it is a weak view. Yes, it is a weak view, so that will create controversy. People will say, it will raise eyebrows. They will say, how on earth have you given fatwa on this facilitation? You're just paying that type of muftis, right? That end up a liberal type. People can give you labels because of the fact, yes. So if you give them the grounds for why you've used the fatwa there, yes.
You do keep to yourself.
Yeah. Otherwise, they will say, "Oh, look at this modern mufti, who's just giving fatwa on lenient views, and they are weakly. These are weak positions. So you have to give a reason why you have done. What is the need behind that fatwa that you've given on a weak position? Yes, based on leniency and facilitation." Number four, mention the permissible alternative when issuing the fatwa on prohibition. Say, for example, you're giving fatwa on prohibition. Are we understanding? Yes? You're giving fatwa on prohibition. Yes? So you have to because we've been told to give facilitation on people, isn't it? So you said, oh, this is prohibited, but this is the alternative which is allowed. So when you're issuing fatwa, you don't say, oh no, this is not allowed, full stop. No. Give them also the opportunity to know that there is an alternative which is halal. Otherwise, what will happen is that because of that strictness, they will feel alienated towards them. Yes? Because they don't realize the fact that maybe Allah has made one thing haram, but He's made about 5 things, alternatives, halal. For one haram thing, there's 5 alternatives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the flesh of pork, yes? The swine, yes? The meat of the pork, haram, yes? But He's given you other animals which are halal. So if somebody asks you, some new Muslim is entered into Islam, he asks, is this meat halal? Yes. Is bacon halal for me to eat? So no, it's not halal, but you can get a turkey bacon, yes? Or you can eat other types of meat where you can also enjoy. So what will happen is he will feel satisfied that, okay, I will lose out in this one, but I've got other 5 to 9 alternatives that I can enjoy my breakfast with. Does that make sense? Moving on, number 5. When applying the principle of taysir, make sure the interests recognized in Sharia are properly realized. The interests that are in Sharia, right? The objectives and interests that are in Sharia, they are properly realized. When number 6, when adopting a facilitating view, recognize the principle of alleviating hardship, raful haraj. One thing is that when you're using facilitation, you have to realize that am I using facilitation to, I'm giving fatwa on facilitation, is it because there is a hardship there or not? Yes, there is a hardship there. And obviously Allah, yes, has placed, Allah Himself has given fatwas, or Allah Himself has issued laws that alleviate hardship. Yes? So you have to say that, look, if I am issuing this fatwa, is it alleviating a difficulty, a hardship or not? Yes? Is it doing raful haraj or not? If it's doing, well, that's good. Well done. Number, take into consideration of any positive or possible negative outcome over issuing a lenient ruling. If you're giving a lenient ruling, you have to know what are the bad things that could happen, right? For example, if you allow something on leniency, does that open the door for a person to go towards haram or not? So obviously there you have to take into consideration what is the impact that it might have, that fatwa, on the person. We understand? Yes? Say for example, there is some kind of drink which is not alcoholic, but but the name of it suggests that it's alcoholic, but it's not alcoholic, right? If people start drinking it, saying, oh, that's fine, you can drink it and this and that, will that lead to tomorrow people saying, oh, because I'm drinking vodka, which is not alcoholic? I'm just giving an example, right? Let's try the other vodka, which is alcoholic. Yes? Will it open those floodgates or not? Are we understanding? Yeah. I'm just giving a very crude example, but as we go along, we will understand. Number 8.
Supermarkets or anything. Any supermarkets, you see 2 different types of, it's called ginger beer.
Yeah.
One is the ginger beer, which is actually ginger.
Yeah.
Just liquid, which is not alcoholic and which is just like. But there's also another one which is having alcohol in it. That is also called ginger beer. So that,
true. Now, I'll give you another example. What happened was that you're allowed, they used to have bacon flavored crisps, but suitable for vegetarian.
Yeah, they still have it.
Suitable for vegetarian. So people do take and eat at home alone, right? But in a public place, would you be giving that out to people who don't have much knowledge about it? Yes. I can remember once, few years ago, we were in the mosque and we were eating and somebody brought crisp.
Bacon.
And he brought, specifically that bacon flavor crisp. Yeah? Specifically that bacon flavor crisp. He brought it there, just to say that, look, I'm knowledgeable. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Sorry for that, I've not printed much of this, but inshallah next week I will. Yeah. So we are going through the guidelines of facilitation. So what he did was that he brought the bacon flavor crisp in front of the public. Now what will happen is that this public, the members of public, they are not acquainted with this.
The children especially.
Even the children, they will think, okay, if I can have bacon flavor crisp here, then bacon is fine.
Yeah.
They're very quickly at concluding.
Yes.
So if you're giving a fatwa on facility, okay, if you're knowledgeable and you're eating yourself alone at home,
it's okay.
Something else.
Yep.
But when you bring into a public arena of children, how will the children think, they'll say, tomorrow they will go to school and they'll say, oh, okay, that's fine, I'll have bacon. People say, oh, why you're having bacon? Oh, we had a bacon flavored crisp in. Yes? So, number 8, comprehend all the circumstances concerning the issue before issuing the fatwa based on facility. Look at all the circumstances. You take into social, economic, all different types of circumstances, time, place. All these have to be taken into consideration. Investigate. Number 9, investigate widely accepted customs and conventions or related to the lenient ruling. Yes. Number 1 that we were talking about, ensure that fatwa is based on knowledge and fairness. Knowledge is an important ingredient that is needed in order to issue a fatwa. Without knowledge, how can you issue fatwa? You can't, because you will misguide yourself and misguide others, isn't it? Without knowledge, any issuance of fatwa is not only at risk of making error, but in fact it is not allowed to give fatwa in that state. It is reported the Prophet ﷺ states, indeed Allah Ta'ala does not take away knowledge by snatching away from the people. Instead, Allah Ta'ala takes away the knowledge by giving death to the scholars until when he leaves no alim, scholar. Yes, then people end up taking ignorant ones as their leaders. Thereafter, they issue fatwas without knowledge, thus becoming themselves astray and leading others astray. It is a hadith that Imam Muslim has mentioned. So, knowledge is a very important ingredient in giving fatwa. And when it comes to the fatwa of facilitation, it has to be based again on knowledge as well. Yes? Imam Bukhari has also mentioned a similar narration with a very slight variation in wording. Ibn Hajar explains the narration in Sahih al-Bukhari, the same narration, by saying this hadith is an exhortation to preserve knowledge and a warning against allowing the ignorant to assume position of leadership in issuing fatwa. It also elucidates that issuing fatwas is a true act of leadership and condemns those who undertake the action without knowledge. Yes? The companions were careful. Who? The companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were careful concerning issuing rulings without having a firm knowledge concerning them. Hence, they would consult each other before passing juristic verdicts. Look at the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. They would consult beforehand, before passing. Nowadays, it's like, without consultation, people consult, ask. Phone other muftis, ask them, take their opinion. They might be more knowledgeable in that field than you. Umar ibn al-Khattab, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Alqama, and the best among the companions would consult other companions before issuing rulings. On the other hand, Imam Malik states, as for the people of our time, they take pride in issuing rulings. They feel proud about it, yes? As a consequence, little knowledge is open to them. Thus, the pious predecessors were thorough, careful in their issuance of new verdicts, and they would research well, yes, and consult each other. They would research, yes, consult each other before passing a verdict. On the contrary, some contemporary muftis are hasty at issuing fatwas. That's a problem. Without thorough review and contemplation on the issues at hand, let alone consulting each other before passing juristic judgment. As a result, the approach of issuing rulings has become flawed, and the fatwas issued reflect clear disregard for the high position that should be given to Islamic law. So because of that, what's happened? The fatwas are not consistent, they're not according to the knowledge, and they're flawed because of the fact that they're not giving consideration into thinking, yes, beforehand, consulting the experts, yes. There are, sometimes it could be regarding medicine you're not much aware of. Consult an expert. There might be a mufti who is a doctor as well. Just giving an example. Consult him. He will conclusively consulting others will help reach correct conclusions, especially when using facilitation to issue juristic decisions concerning contemporary issues. Additionally, taking a fair approach is also important. Yes. Number two, we're talking about ensuring a thorough and correct investigation. Again, that is like, for example, consultation is part of investigation. Yes. But here we are talking about a broader remit of consultation, yes? Not only consultation, also investigation. Correct investigation has been undertaken. Ensure that happens before issuing a fatwa on taysir. Jurists need guiding principles, that's true, isn't it? Yes? Especially when dealing with contemporary issues. When it comes to contemporary issues, the jurists need guidance. Given there are different factors and trends at play today, there's cultural factors, intellectual factors, political factors, doctrinal factors. Thorough and correct investigation necessitates a clear study of the question and looking at all angles. The pious predecessors would pause for a little while and think. They wouldn't just, somebody phones you in and, you're not sure about it, still you end up giving fatwa. They wouldn't do that. This process will help avoid hastiness. Any fatwa issued in hastiness has the risk of error. We've already mentioned Imam Malik used to contemplate over questions for a long period of time before answering. Imam Malik himself says that when I'm asked about an issue, I think about it for nights on end. Consecutively, I think for nights after nights after nights. Imam Malik is also reported to have stated, I've been contemplating concerning a legal question for more than 10 years, and to date I have not found an answer to it. These quotes point towards the importance of probing and investigating thoroughly before issuing fatwa. For example, if a mufti is posed with a question which is related to medicine, we are giving an example, yes? Medicine is not his area of expertise. True? Yes? Say, for example, it is about artificial insemination or in vitro fertilization or test tube babies. It is important for the mufti to be acquainted with the question, its contents, and the field of medicine the question is tackling. Ignorance about it will necessitate investigating about it. If you're ignorant about what artificial insemination entails, then that necessitates investigation and researching into it and asking the experts about it, thereafter taking a juristic position about it. Yes? Taking a juristic position about it. On the other hand, if the mufti fails to do that and answers hastily, the danger of such a decision is evident. Concerning this, Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi writes, right? A mufti should consult qualified and knowledgeable people concerning what juristic decision he should make about an issue at hand. He should ask each one of them about their opinion. This practice attracts blessing, since it is emulating the way of the pious predecessors. Allah commands His Messenger ﷺ to take counsel with them, meaning believers. The Prophet ﷺ himself consulted with others concerning a variety of issues and instructed his followers to do the same. So his companions would consult with each other before issuing legal rulings. So again, it comes to the same. Like for example, this one is just a branch of the first one. Number 2 is a branch of number 1. But it's a bit more broader, in which a person has to investigate as well. MashaAllah. Abdul Malik Ismaila, Jazakallah khair ya Shaykh. May Allah reward you. Going to number 3. Cite textual evidences and rules when issuing fatwa in favor of a weakly attested lenient view. I said that it's important to have proofs in front. The prophetic habit when issuing verdicts was to also mention the reasons and wise purposes behind the rulings, while his rulings in themselves were proofs. Yes, you can see that Ibn al-Qayyim has mentioned about that. A mufti needs to furnish the proofs and the reasons why he has reached that conclusion, especially in the face of a lenient verdict he issues. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim states, slowly, the zeal for knowledge dwindled to the point that the scholars would just resort to only saying yes or no. Is this halal? Yes. Is this haram? No. When answering about juristic questions without citing any proof or source, such scholars recognize neither their own negligence nor the merit of those who supported their rulings with textual proofs. Things got really worse, he says, when those scholars who issued rulings with proofs were criticized and condemned. So you had a group of scholars, they said, no. If anybody asks you, just say yes or no. Yes? You don't need to go and give all these proofs in front of him. Perhaps the time will come when people lose the credibility, the credibility concerning fatwa issues. Given that a fatwa issued based on facilitation is prone to raise eyebrows and warrants explanation, isn't it? Sometimes it may create controversy, therefore it is wise to issue a detailed verdict concerning proofs and reasons for taking that approach. Faizi, where is the keys? Have I left the keys here somewhere?
Yeah.
Faizi, I'm really sorry to say that. I'm thirsty.
No, I can take it in the...
Bring a cup.
Yes.
You can do that, or you can use the kitchen. It's up to you.
Oh.
This is the key. Open and there's a cup there. It's just I'm a bit thirsty. I'll wait for you, inshallah. Yeah, so we've got number 4, inshallah. Mention the permissible alternative when issuing a fatwa of prohibition. Because for many things that Allah and His Messenger have prohibited, they have mentioned alternative things that are permissible. For the things that the things that Allah has prohibited, Allah has also mentioned what is halal, isn't it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, okay, I've prohibited this, but this is halal. Yes? Like for example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited riba, He said, well, buying and selling is halal. When adultery is prohibited, marriage is allowed. Similarly, when a medicine containing a prohibited item is... may Allah reward you. Jazakallah. By the way, I'm using my right hand. Number 4, yeah? Otherwise, it will create another controversy, so you have to give a proof. The proof is when you're using this, right? It gives the other way. Yeah. Mention the permissible alternative. Can you see that? Yes. When issuing a fatwa on prohibition, for many things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu have prohibited, they have also mentioned. They have mentioned alternative things that are permissible. When adultery is not permissible, it's prohibited. Marriage has also been mentioned to be allowed. That's an alternative. Similarly, when a medicine containing a prohibited item is not allowed to consume, then make sure that one mentions the halal alternative available to consume. So, for example, if somebody says, "Oh, am I allowed to consume this because it contains alcoholic this?" Yes. So, a mufti should say, "Hey, no, you can't." But there are in the market, this, that, such and such medicines with these names that are allowed. They are alternative medicines. Yes. For example, can I take this cough syrup contains this? Oh, but there are other cough syrups here that are alternatives. You can take them. Yes, and he should mention the names as well. So it makes it easier for that person. Rather than say, no, this is not allowed. So a person will say, okay, if this is not allowed, what else will be allowed?
Nothing.
The question sometimes asked because most likely he's unaware that there might be a counterpart which is allowed for the issue being asked here. Number 5. When applying the principle of taysir, facilitation, make sure the interests recognized in Sharia are properly realized. When looking at the issue at hand, a mufti must consider whether the interests identified in Islamic law are being realized or not. Maintain the fact that Sharia seeks to preserve the benefits and repel the harms. The following criteria, now we've got the criteria, must be taken into account by a mufti when realizing these interests and employing verdicts based on them. Ensure that the interests are backed by Islamic law. The interest that he is really seeking. If he is going to use facilitation, he has to see that the interests, the maqasid of Sharia are being realized, the interests in concerning facilitation. What else? Raful haraj. Yes, all these interests that Sharia enshrined in Sharia, they are being backed by Islamic law and they are being realized. They do not conflict with legal texts, and make sure that those interests. Say, for example, if he's basing his fatwa of taysir on an interest, on maslah. Are you understanding?
Yeah.
Make sure that it does not conflict with the legal text. Does that make sure clear? Okay. Ensure that the interest at hand is undisputable and there is a convincing evidence for its validity. Yes, it's not a faulty interest. Ascertain that the interest in question is of universal nature. Of a universal nature. Say somebody says that, Sheikh, it's just I want these happy drugs, but they're mind-bending and this and that. Can I take them for leisure and pleasure? Now, does it alter your state of mind? If it's altering the state of mind, right? Sharia has come, the universal principle or the universal objective or interest of Sharia is protection of the mind. Yes. Ensure that the interest at hand will not threaten some other interests, great or of equal importance. Yes, say for example, if there is two interests, right? And one interest, because you are basing your fatwa on facilitation, based on an interest, right? If that interest is threatening another interest of a greater value or equal value, then obviously you have to have, if it is threatening of a greater value, then obviously in that case you cannot give fatwa on that facilitation. But if it's not threatening, if it's threatening something of equal value, then there you have to think deeper, because it's 50-50 then. Yes. Now, when adopting a facilitating view, recognize the principles of alleviating hardship and harm, raful haraj. The term harm here refers to, it should be a situation in which anything that leads to undue hardship, either in body, soul, or property, irrespective whether that happens immediately or later on. Yes. Hence, raful haraj entails sparing legally accountable people of hardship in terms of what Islamic law requires from them. Both the Quran and Sunnah have strongly emphasized on the alleviation of hardship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He has placed no hardship on you in religion. Whilst intending to remove hardship, the following principles are needed to be taken into consideration. If you're removing hardship, you have to, like for example, it's a situation where a person has come and it's an issue. So you want to give fatwa on facilitation, but that facilitation is removing the hardship. So in that case, you don't just quickly say, oh, it's removing hardship, I should give fatwa on that. No, you have three things to consider. First, the harm and hardship to be removed must be real. It's not like some whimsical, or some fairy tale type of hardship, or some supposed hardship, or some illusion. No, it should be something concrete. That hardship should be something concrete and real. Yes? And must have a specific cause, such as illness or travel, which will lead to extreme hardship. It has to have a cause behind it. Yes? Thus, speculative assumed hardship or harm will not be given any consideration to. Right? Number two, the alleviation of the harm or hardship must not conflict with any Islamic legal text. However, in areas where the texts have not been addressed, there are areas where the text has not addressed anything, alleviation of harms and hardship will be taken into account. Thus, if the harm, can you see? The harm or hardship clashes with the explicit textual proof, then the former may be dismissed altogether. Yes? If harm clashes with what? Textual proof, then obviously you have to hardship, you remove hardship, because textual proof is saying you have to do, must do. Huh? Yeah. If the textual proof says must do. Number 7. Take into consideration of any possible negative outcome over issuing a lenient ruling, including the controversy that it might create as well. Yes? And the expert mufti will always take into consideration whether the facilitating verdict will achieve the desired goal or not. If it's not achieving the goal, you have to picture and anticipate what the outcome of that facilitating verdict might be. The practice of anticipating outcomes is a well-founded principle. Textually backed in Sharia. You can read that Shatibi has mentioned. Take an example of the Prophet ﷺ telling Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anhu, had your people not emerged from the life of unbelief, I would have rebuilt the Kaaba on the foundations laid by Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. So the Kaaba at the moment is on the foundation of Quraysh, meaning that the Kaaba is as the Kaaba it is. Are you understanding? But you know that place where it is like a Hatim. You know the Hatim? You know the wall? Yeah. That is also part of the Kaaba. Now I'll tell you the story behind it. What happened was that, the Kaaba in itself was a bit of a rectangular type. Not fully rectangular, but like this building. And the Masjid al-Aqsa, the compound of Masjid al-Aqsa is on the same, shape as the Kaaba, like it was like a rectangle. It's not like as it is a bit squarish type cubic type. Now, what happened was that Quraysh, they said that we have to, the foundations, the building is not proper, we have to strengthen the building. So they started building back again, the Quraysh, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ when he was a young man. When they started building it, right, they didn't have enough halal funds. So they were unable to complete the whole construction. Because they said we will use the purest of the purest wealth in that. So they left a place, that hatim where people go in, it's like an arch type wall, like a half moon wall. Yeah, that wall. That area is also part of the Kaaba. So and then what they did was that in time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the door was leveled on the ground so people could enter. Yes? And the Prophet ﷺ said to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha that these people, they've just entered into Islam, and I do not want to cause controversy, because things are fine as they are, but if we are looking for the ideal would be that I would make it back to the foundation of Ibrahim alayhi salam, yes, the building, which would be a bit more rectangular. That place of hatim would be also incorporated into the building. Then I would place 2 doors, so people can enter from one door, they can pray salah inside, and they can come out. Yes? But Quraysh, what they did was that only those of all the nobles could enter. This is the reason they have raised the door, so it doesn't give access to everybody to go inside. Yes? And only the notables and the nobles are allowed to go in. But look, the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quraysh failed to fulfill that. Maybe there is a hikmah behind it. That place of hatim. If you go there and you pray salah there, it is as if you prayed inside the Kaaba. Exactly. So the Prophet ﷺ said that had your people not emerged from kufr, yes, so early, meaning that if they had stayed for a longer period and I've lived more, then I would make sure that I would bring back to the original foundations of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Meaning that 90% or say 80% of the house, Kaaba, is on the foundation of Ibrahim. Only that part is not incorporated into the Kaaba, into the building, sorry. But it is part of the Kaaba. Yes? And when a person enters into Hatim, he's praying as if he's praying inside the Kaaba. Yes?
That's very strong hadith.
This is because obviously it would create controversy, isn't it? Yes? So you have to think, if you're giving a fatwa on leniency, you have to understand the outcomes that might come. Yes?
Yeah.
People will say, on what grounds you've done? This is the reason why you have to also cite a proof, I mentioned. Do you understand? So you have to understand the impact of it, whether there will be a negative impact or not. So this is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ as a proof that you have to understand the outcomes. People sometimes do. Then what happened after that? You know what happened after that? In the time of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Yes? Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he announced the Khilafah after Ali radiallahu ta'ala and so on and so forth. When he announced the Khilafah, meaning after a while, when he announced the Khilafah, what he did was that his main power base was in Mecca. So he commanded people to build to fulfill this wish of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Kaaba was again reversed to the original way of Ibrahim alayhi salam.
Rectangular.
Yeah, it was done. And when they were excavating it, and obviously Ibrahim alayhi salam built the Kaaba on the foundation that were before. Ibrahim alayhi salam build the Kaaba on the foundation that was before. He did not create the foundation. The foundation was not of Ibrahim alayhi salam. In fact, the foundation was before that. This is the reason Allah says, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ Qawaid. So the foundation was already there. Qawaid was there. He just built it on that. Yes? So, when they were excavating, I think they were trying to go a bit down in terms of the foundation. At one point they did like that, and what happened? There was earthquake, and there was a lightning, an earthquake. So Abdullah ibn Zubair said to the workers, enough, don't try to dig further. Just build on that. Build on that. Then what happened? Hajjaj and so on and so forth, they come after him, right? They say, no. Our forefathers, Quraysh, in that time it wasn't like this. Reversed it back. Then Imam Malik gave a fatwa that don't, to the rulers after, yes, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and others, after them, once it was reversed, right? Back, he gave fatwa that now it will become a political play. Every king will come, one will say, no, let's turn it to the wish of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Other will say, no, the way it was with Quraysh. So it will become a play. He gave fatwa that keep it the way it is, the status quo. That's the knowledge of Imam Malik. Some good history, isn't it, about it? Yeah?
Yeah, very good history.
No, but look, the Prophet ﷺ, why? Now look, can you understand? They had the Quraysh blood. Those, Abdullah ibn Zubair, Quraysh blood. The rulers after him, yes? Who reversed it to the Quraysh, they have the Quraysh blood, right? Yes? But there was a bit of ignorance as well, isn't it? Because the wish of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would say, okay, anyway, Abdullah ibn Zubair has fulfilled the wish, but because of that political, political competition, yes? It was like, oh, Abdullah ibn Zubair is doing that. Kaaba was a bit different. So they're not even looking at the proofs, yeah? They're just looking at that political game. So what happened was that Imam Malik said, that's it. Just leave it the way it is. It was like that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. He just had a wish. And he said that if people, had remained in Islam for a longer while, they would realize. If I told them that, no, the foundation of Ibrahim a.s. is like this, they would understand. They would say, yeah, go ahead. Yes? Messenger of Allah. So look, the Prophet ﷺ took into consideration the controversy. Yeah. And remember one thing, that part is still part of the Kaaba. The one that is outside the wall, it's still part of the Kaaba. It's like, for example, we have this masjid, right? My intention, the intention of the person who has built this masjid was to build double the, yes? So that area that is outside the walls of the masjid will still be part of the masjid because of the intention. Is that understood? Yes? Yes. Or say, for example, if this mosque was shrunk a bit, yeah? That place that is outside the new walls, after shrinking it, that place outside is still part of the masjid. Is that clear? The benefit that is created is that is giving the people, every person who might not be of that class of notables, to have an access to pray there. If you pray there, it is as if you prayed inside the Kaaba. Is that clear? Comprehend all circumstances concerning the issue before issuing the fatwa based on facilitation. Try to look at all the angles. That's what it's saying. Yes? Look at all the angles. All the dynamics must be taken into consideration, such as time, place, society, social setup, economic, political conditions, and so on. The injunctions change according to the time and place. You remember that, yes? As somebody might give fatwa here that women can drive, and somewhere else some might give some kind of fatwa for some reasons. And all other factors mentioned above. A simple example is the high difference between the price of silver and gold. Yes, the gap, yes, between the silver and gold at this moment, which demands to decide which metal should be used as the benchmark for the nisab of zakat. Yes, gold is very high in price, and if you use that as a nisab for zakat, it means that you have to have a few hundreds and thousand, £1,000 or so, whatever, to pay zakat. Whereas silver is a bit cheaper. So which one to use as a benchmark for zakat? So the mufti must ascertain one of these two metals. Social and economic condition, therefore, will be taken into consideration, as well as the pricing benchmark that is more beneficial to the poor. Jurists took the circumstances into context and knew that juristic decision revolved around the different prevailing circumstances. Another example is of some scholars who view the permissibility of locking the mosques between the prayers, for the reasons of protection of property, even though they acknowledge that they are places of worship that should be kept open for access, isn't it? So all the circumstances are taken into consideration before the fatwa is given. Investigate widely accepted customs, conventions, and conventions also related to the lenient ruling. This is, when the fatwa is given on customs, yes? This relates the areas where customs are taken into juristic consideration, like, for example, rigidity in applying strict rulings in injunctions concerning customs goes against the consensus of the scholars in this regard, and it also reflects ignorance in religion. Yes, there are many times fatwa could be given on the customs. Are we understanding? Yes, on urf, customs in some areas. So if a fatwa is given on customs, take the lenient approach in that. Because there's no textual evidences there. It is the customs that are governing. Yes? Al-urfu hakimun, yes? Who's governing there? The customs are governing. In those, take a lenient approach, because what will happen is that people are already accustomed with those customs. Is that right? Yes? Now, if you give a hard fatwa, you don't have any textual evidence for that. You're just giving hard fatwa maybe because of your harshness. So it will create, yes, when you're giving fatwa on facilitation, it will, or you have to take also the custom into consideration. Yes. Now, if you start applying a strict ruling, yes, it will backfire. I'll give you a very simple example, right? We do not have any clear-cut fatwa regarding prawns. Prawns, yeah. The Hanafis, they say, it's not allowed, yes? And they say the reason is that because that is an insect of water. Allah says in the Quran that anything that comes out, any animal that comes out of there, it's a halal, you can eat. But some scholars, they've gone to an extent that if those fish that look like dogs on earth, do you understand? I'm not saying about fish, but marine animals that look like dogs, or that look like pig, or any other animal that would be prohibited, its counterpart on land would be prohibited, therefore they would be also prohibited. They do qiyas like that, some scholars. Other scholars, they say, no, everything, meaning from other madhabs, everything, because Allah says that anything, any animal Allah says that whatever is in the sea is halal for you. And the Hanafis, they say that what Allah refers to is fish, the family of fish. So a prawn is not the family of fish. And scientifically it's not, it's a different family altogether. Is that clear? So they prohibited. But they prohibited because of this, yes? There's no any clear-cut, it's more the usage of qiyas and all this stuff and interpretation of the things, yes? But you have a place like Bangladesh where the custom is to eat prawns. And Malaysia too. But you are Shafi, so it's fine. But Bangladeshis, they are Hanafis. Yes? And when it comes to the eating of prawns now, right? So would you say, okay, now you have to give a facilitating? Now, if you use the rigidity and applying a strict ruling there, right? That is going in reality against the consensus of scholars, yes? And that shows the ignorance in religion. What will happen? It will backfire, yes? People say, oh, where did you get that from? And it will create more problems, and you have to go more into explanation and so on and so forth, right? Yes? So obviously the custom will be governing there, isn't it? You will say, yes, you can eat there.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Now you've grown up, you might be a Hanafi, but you've grown up, take in South Africa, other places, you've grown up in that area where you get this type of prawns, yeah? And you're eating it, then that's fine. But if you've grown up in places where you're not very close to the sea, right? And you're a Hanafi somewhere in the middle of China or somewhere, right? Then obviously avoid prawns, that's fine.
True.
Does that make sense, yeah?
Yes.
May Allah guide.